I just want to thank everybody so much for coming today. My name is Megan, if anyone's new here. We are doing a really fun and beautiful watercolor class today. So we are going to be painting a really simple inspiration of watercolor feathers. So I'll go over the supplies today, and then we'll go ahead and kick things off. So for the supplies today, I just have an array of brushes. I have a medium, like half-inch flat tip brush to apply water just a little more graciously. So I have a bigger brush for that. And then I just have a few smaller brushes. You can grab any different sizes. I want you to kind of look and play and see what brushes you have at home and use what works best for you, okay? So that's pretty flexible there. You don't need certain numbers or sizes. Just grab some small and maybe a medium-sized brush to apply some water. In addition to the brushes, I have a watercolor set here. It doesn't matter what watercolor set you have, you're going to be blending colors along the way. So just use whatever colors you have. And then if I wanted to mix two of these colors together to get a different shade or tone, I can always do that. In addition to my watercolors, I have a cup of water here. Sometimes when you do watercolor classes, you have the option of using 2 cups of water, 1 cup of water to grab clean water to apply, and then the other is to rinse your brushes. I typically use just 1 cup of water. I don't typically, I don't get a whole lot of murky water, even if I'm applying clean water. So I'll let you play with that, but the 1 cup of water should be fine for today, but you can decide as you get going. I also have a small pencil to do a little bit of light sketching as we get started. And I have watercolor paper here. If you wish to tape your watercolor paper down on a piece of cardboard or on down onto your space, you're welcome to do that. I am just going to keep mine right here on the watercolor pad for now. Okay, because I'm not going to be doing a lot of full coverage today. I'm just going to be doing specific designs of feathers. And then I always have a paper towel handy for any messes. So how we're going to start today's class is I'm going to put my brushes down and we're going to do a little bit of sketching. So we're going to be doing a little bit of sketching for our feathers. So the way that we're going to do our feathers, hey Jenny, welcome. We're going to do lines. So we're going to do a line for the middle of the feather. And this is where you can create a little bit of a curve for the feather. So I'm going to do a little bit of a line for feather 1, a little bit of a line for feather 2. You can make them all different sizes. Just do a single line for our feathers. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll probably do another little one here. So I'm being quite aggressive with my feathers. So I did, and I have pencil lines. So I'll try to zoom in a little bit so you can see these a little bit better. They're pretty hard to see. I'll do a little bit of a darker line just to show you. But at home, there's one there. Keep a nice light line. Okay, I'm going to go a little darker just so you can see it for demonstration purposes only. Oops. So this is the center line in the middle of your feather. The reason that we're doing it this way is because it allows us to get the shape of the feather, which is kind of neat. And then we're going to, once you have those lines in, we're going to do a second parallel line. It's going to parallel the first line that you drew, and this is going to serve as the feather's quill. So I'm going to do a thin second line for the quill of the feather. And do a light pencil line at home.
Megan, I'm sorry to interrupt. Two things. A,
Sure.
I can't see the lines at all. A and B, I know what you're gonna say to this, but it looks like in the inspiration you said the paper is horizontal and now you're doing the other way. So I know you're gonna say it doesn't matter, but I just gotta put that out there. So
Yeah, no problem. So you definitely you can choose the orientation. So I am doing it vertically just because of my setup today, but if you wanted to do it horizontally, that's absolutely up to you, Dory. Absolutely. And I will zoom down a little bit so you can see my pencil lines. Is that better for you? Jenny, can you see those?
Yeah, that's better, Megan.
Okay. So I'm just doing a second parallel line for the quill. I'm not going to use Sharpie today because it's going to just spread and bleed with watercolor. So we'll just have to do our best. I am doing darker lines, so hopefully this is more helpful for you guys. If you need to make these longer, you can. You're doing a second parallel line to be the quill of the feather. You could do two, three, four. I just did 5 lines because I was just being footloose and fancy free. If you wanted to make any of these a little longer, you could always extend the quill. So I have double lines on each of the quill. So I'll give you a minute to finish that. And then once you have the double lines on the quill, the third step is to shape the feather's edge. So you're going to be drawing soft curved lines extending from the center to form the feather's sides. And you're going to leave the lower part open on the bottom of the feather. And you're going to add details along the way. So you're going to add like small triangular gaps along the edges to mimic a natural feather's texture. So you can adjust the size, the direction, and the curve for like different varieties. So the way the top is going to look like is it's going to be a little rounded towards the top. And then you can kind of leave little gaps in the feather. And your feathers can be wide or they can be narrow. And I'll make some of my other ones, I'll make some of these a little wider. And they can even be a little bit more wide at the bottom. And you can round the bottom. So I'll try to make these lines a little darker so you all can see them. So I'll bring this here. If I wanted to make this one a little wider, you can leave gaps in the feather. And I just made this feather a little bit bigger. And there's different styled gaps that you can add in. And then let me see what the bottom looks like here. And then the quill can always come out a little further on the bottom. So if you need to resketch the quill, you can do that. But it's okay to do a couple lines, erase to modify. So drawing can be tricky. If you don't draw that often, I just encourage you to take your time, enjoy the process. So there's one feather here. Again, the top can be a little rounded, a little wide. And for these points, they can kind of come. I'm going to try to keep my feather a little wider in some areas. The bottom is a little rounded. And then the quill can come out from the bottom. And you can vary these feathers. You can have them a little wider. I'll make some of these a little wider up here towards the top. So I'll make this top one a little wider. And you can kind of play with where you want these points to come in. So you can add in those point breaks. You can kind of come in and make those really visible. You can make them deep. You can make those points of those V's more narrow. I made a more deep point right there. So you can come in and modify those deep points if you wish. So this is all about experimentation. All feathers look so different. So you can add in as many or a few of these details as you wish. And I'm going to add that quill on the bottom. And if you want to add in some more of these deeper points, you can do that. Just erase any unneeded or any unwanted lines. And I'm just going to round this here to keep this feather a little rounded. If your feather looks straight and boring, just add some rounded edges to it. That will make it look like more like a rounded, softer feather. So I just rounded some of those edges. That helped. And I'm just adding a couple more of those deep points, maybe up here towards the top. It's totally up to you on how many of these deeper points you want to add. But just erase as you go, taking your time. And I just have a couple little ones down here. Let's see here. Do a couple of these deep points. I'm going to try to stay a little rounded here. Okay. And I have a little quill that comes off the end. And then just erase any pencil lines that you don't need. At home, I encourage you to do soft pencil lines. So you can see it at home, but it doesn't interfere with the watercolor effort. So I'm just going to go through and make sure I have any lines erased. And you take your time. The drawing can take as long as you need it to. There's no rush. If anyone needs any help, please let me know. If anyone's watching the YouTube video, please post any comments down in the chat. I'm here to help you out. For any of the lovely ladies in the live class, please let me know how I can support you. But you're all going to do different numbers of feathers, right? So just know everybody's is going to be a little bit different. There's different bends. If there's any other objects that you're inspired to add, like leaves, you're welcome to do that as well. But I want to thank you all for being here. I applaud you all just for making a little bit of time for yourself today to create and to unwind. We have a wonderful artist community, and I'm so grateful that you are a part of it. We're here to support and uplift one another when we need it the most. And sometimes that's just taking a break from the everyday stuff to recharge, to try something new. Our brain likes that a lot. So I'm just coming in. I did some of the rounded shapes. And what I'm doing, ladies, is I'm just coming back in, adding some feather-like breaks to make that feather look more natural. And if you want to do, any kind of double-like breaks, you could do a couple of the double-like breaks. And then I extend my quill down and beyond the end of the feather. But I can come in and I can do a little bit more adjusting, adding in a couple more breaks to the feather. So I added some down below here, and I added some midway, and I added some towards the top. So like this one could probably use another break. So I'm just going to come down here and I erase that edge line. And that one looks a little bit more natural now. You can come in and it's just a little patience and just kind of reflecting on what lines you've done and if you wanted to make any modifications. And you can make some of these really deep. These V's can be really deep, but they always kind of come back towards the tip or to the edge. So this one here needs a little bit of love. Let's see what we can do here. This one looks pretty interesting. So once you've drawn a feather, you can always go back and tweak the shape before you do the watercolors. So that's why we draw first. So we get the shape right. And this needs to be a little bit more rounded here. So if you have any straight lines, just try rounding them. It may make your feathers look a little bit more natural. So I'm going to pull this down. I'm working on this feather. I'll work on this one next, but I'm just kind of looking at my edges to figure out what else I want to add and where and why. So this one needed to be a little more rounded in this space. It's a little too flat and boring. See, I just tucked in a couple more, but I want to keep this nice and even if I can. So you can just erase and fix your lines. And if something doesn't look quite right, just redraw the line. It's easy as that. So you just have a little patience with the process. This feather has a little bit of a bend in it, which is fine. But I'm going to come over here to this one. This one needs a little bit of attention. And I'm going to just do a couple of breaks down here at the bottom on the side, a couple of those deep V's to break up this edge. Just going to soften this edge here. So you're obviously looking at your own and you're just making adjustments. So for anyone at home, I encourage you to have soft pencil lines. I do not have soft pencil lines. I have darker lines so you can, for demonstration purposes only. So you will see my pencil lines through my watercolor, which is fine. Totally fine for me for today. But I'd rather for you to see these forms than not. So I'm just looking at each of the objects and you want to make sure your forms are exactly what you want them to be, or at least close, right? Before you, and I added a couple more of the details up there on the top one. So you can see I'm kind of alternating from the left to the right with the deep V's. So I'm happy with most of them, I think, but I'm going to give you all a few more minutes. I want you to take your time applying and the texture where you want to on the feathers. But I have two small feathers down here. You can say I have the quills coming out from the bottom of each feather. So take your time. I have this zoomed in right now. But I just want to thank everybody so much for being here. If you're new here, my name is Megan. I'm so glad you're here with us. We have live classes for our members, and then we have the tutorials. These are available on YouTube. So I love connecting. We've met so many wonderful people through this programming. So I just want to thank you for the ladies that are with us on the live today. So wonderful for you to be a part of our community. You both are wonderful people. And for anyone watching the video today, I encourage you to like and subscribe to the channel and consider joining our live artist community. We share our artwork with one another. We ask questions. You can tell me what you're inspired to paint, and that will help drive our future schedule and programming. So I just want to thank you again for being here. And always be sure just to show up as yourself. You can always join our watercolor classes or acrylic classes with any supplies you have at home. All right, Miss Jenny, thumbs up. How you doing with the drawing? You need a couple more minutes or you good to go? Good to go. Okay, I got a thumbs up from Jenny. So, and Miss Dory, if you need more time, you just take as much time as you need.
Yeah, ready.
Okay, great. I didn't want to rush you guys. So what we're going to do is I want you to think about the colors you want to use. And we're going to mix the colors that we want to use first on our plate. So I'm going to do blues and purples, I think, today. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a palette or a paper plate, and you want to use a plate or a palette that has wells like this, these little wells. And you're going to mix and you're going to grab some of your paint color and you're going to bring it in here and you're going to get your paint ready for application. So prepare 3 paint colors, even 4 maybe, that you're going to use for today's painting. And you don't have to use it. You can change your colors. You can change your mind. But I'm going to apply, bring a little water. And I'm going to do a little bit of a dark color. There's a blue. And before you go to like a purple, just clean off your brush a little bit. All right. And I'm going to grab a little bit of a purple. So I'm just swirling my brush around wet on the paint to grab the pigment, and I'm bringing the pigment to my palette. And I always want you to mix the right color. So if I don't like this purple and I want to change it up a little bit, say I want to make it a little darker, I can grab a little bit of this blue and mix it with my purple. Ooh, and look at that pretty color. Isn't that fun? So it's really fun and inspiring to find colors you like. Use colors you enjoy. Let's see, there's 4. I'm gonna make a little bit more of this teal so I have it. Let's see, I'm gonna make a little bit of this. So you have different colors ready. Let's put a little bit of this light blue in there. So grabbing a little bit of the pigment and kind of bringing it in and mixing it is good. So we're gonna be using the wet on wet technique for our class today. That means we're gonna clean off our brush. And if you want to grab a brush that you're in control over. I'll probably use the brush that I'm using here. You may not want a big brush, but you're going to paint water wherever you want the paint to go. So you want to stay in the lines. If you need to do a soft erase on your pencil first, I encourage you to do that. I am going to leave my dark lines just so everybody can see my objects. I want you to paint around, don't paint the center quill line, leave that white for right now. But paint one feather to start. I want you to paint on both sides of the feather, leave the quill dry, and you're going to paint water on the feather. So wet on wet. That means we're making the canvas or the paper wet before we apply the paint, so the paint can move, the paint can flow, the paint can do a little dance. And that's a really fun part of watercolor. Now with watercolors, we typically work light colors to dark. So when you apply some of your first colors, I encourage you, if you need to water it down, we can always add darker colors, but it's good to start with lighter colors and work our way to darker colors. And then you can just get started. So I'm just going to have some fun. I'm going to go on the edge here.
Megan, we're just going to start with one getting wet.
Start with one color. Yep.
Okay.
So I'm just doing a little bit of purple, and I'm just going to just do it on the outer edges, but you can do it any way that you want. I'm just doing purple on the outer edges. You can do a single brush stroke. See what's going on nice and light. Ooh, so pretty. So you can do one color. If you wanted to switch and do another color to see how it blends in, you could do that. So this is fairly light. If you need to use regular water, I want you just to play with maybe going to the edges, making sure that your whole feather is painted in. So I'm just using a small brush, using my pinky to stabilize my hand to make sure that whole feather is being painted. If you want to come in and add a little bit more, you can come in and add a little bit more. If your paint is pooling anywhere, you can just move it around. So it's up to you. You can add as much or as little pigment to make this as dark or as, light as you wish. It's absolutely up to you. And I'm outlining the center quill nice and evenly as well. So I'm just running my brush, the tip of the brush, down each side of the center quill. And if you want to add any kind of like feather-like texture, it may happen naturally. You can add as much or as little of the paint pigment as you wish. And I don't have a plan. I'm just here having fun. So just know you can always show up to these classes and just see how it goes. Say I want to add in a little bit more of this different blue. I could add in a little bit of this blue just to see what happens. If you need to add a little bit more water, you can always add more water. Stay in the lines. Don't get outside of the lines like me. If you need to tilt your canvas because things are pooling, you can tip your canvas to shift the color down, which is always fun. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of that blue up here because that was really fun. So I'm just playing with adding different colors on the edges and I'm letting the middle just kind of happen. And then I'm gonna let it dry. If you want to add more, you can add more. Doing those nice even edges, outlining the center quill is really important. It kind of holds some more structure to the whole middle of the feather. It allows it to stand out a little bit more. If you want to add more contrast, we can add more contrast as we go. So if I wanted to let this dry and come back to it and add a deeper contrast, I can always do that. I'm a lefty. I need to move my water over here. There we go. Let's put this up here. Keep knocking things. So once I'm done one feather, I'm just going to rinse and repeat. So I'm going to clean off my brush and I'm going to grab my water and I'm going to do wet on wet for the next feather. So I'm going along each side of the quill. I'm going in these deep V's. I'm doing this one down here. And I'm just grabbing my water out of my water glass. It's a little tinted blue now, but it's no problem. It's still it's coming on very clear right now. So it's no big deal. If the water appears dirty, I can't see it on my watercolor paper. I'm going on each side of the quill. And you can add as many or as few colors as you wish. You could just do purple and just do like heavier contrast of purples in like one area or another. So there's a lot of different approaches and techniques on what color watercolors you apply and where. If you're new to watercolors, you can totally just experiment and just see how it goes. And that's absolutely okay. Then I'm going on each side of the quill. I'm doing my best to not go on the inside of the quill. If you do it by accident, that's no problem. But I'm going on each of these V's, each of these feather details. And then I'm going to have some fun. I'm going to bring in some more color to my next feather. So I might grab this darker color and I might do the edges again first. That was really fun. And then you can watch those colors explode. This is, again, a pretty light color. There's a little more contrast right there. And if I wanted to bring in a little bit of the blues, we can bring in a little bit of the blues. So just take your time. You can let things dry or you can, play with the colors. I kind of like this one has some really fun blues that kind of happened. So I may grab a little bit of like a red or a purplish red and just see what happens if I bring in a little bit of this color too. But I'm not going to touch that. I like how that looks. So I'm just going to be patient and let that one dry. And I can always make adjustments, but I'm going to bring in just a little bit of red here just to see what happens. That's kind of fun. So I brought in a little bit of red and look at that. Isn't that fun to see what happened there? I might even bring in a little bit of red up here too. And there has to be enough water for it to kind of spread. I might bring in a little bit of red up here. It's kind of fun to see what happens. I have some pooling down here, so I can use the corner of a paper towel. If you have any pooling of water, you can let it dry. I might let it dry just to see what happens. But this is where you can kind of make those choices. But I like the multicolors of this one. You can see I have some darker on the blue edges here, and then I have some red on the other side. You could try this technique with one of your feathers. Maybe do one color on one edge and then another. And then I have kind of a purple blue that blends them all together. So it's kind of fun, kind of tie-dye look. I am going to let those two dry, and I'm just going to move to the next feather. So ladies, go at your own pace, but how's this going so far? Fun?
So Megan, a happy little accident, like here I
Okay.
had too much water and I used a paper towel and it made a very cool texture on it. So
Oh, I love that. So it
oh
gave you
yeah,
kind of like a dotted texture on your feather.
yeah.
Oh, I love that. So yeah, that's just using your paper towel is a fun tool for adding texture. So if anybody else wants to try that, I encourage you to. But Dory, thank you so much for sharing that. I love it when those happy little accidents happen. That's awesome. Yeah, that could be a great texture to try for sure if anybody wants to. You could also use the tip of your brush and do some smaller lines after once these layers dry as well. But Dory used a paper towel to do some like inline texturing while it was still a little wet, which is fun. But I'm doing water on water, just prepping my next feather. And again, doing nice close lines to that center quill. Nice close lines to the center quill.
I found I had to add more water to my paper because it was sucking it up so much that
Oh yeah.
I couldn't get the spread. So
Oh yeah. That's a good point. There's different like qualities of paper out there too, Jenny.
yeah.
I am I don't know like all of like those best details, but like a cotton-based paper is really good. But just use, whatever you have, obviously. Uh,
Mhm.
but if you feel like your paper is not good enough, you could always try another kind of paper too.
Yep.
Or just add more water.
Yeah. it's working. I just had to get on the edges. I had to give it a little bit more to get that spread.
Yeah, for sure. So I love this trying like one color on one side, one on the other. It's kind of fun to see what happens here.
Yeah, that looks pretty, Megan.
Isn't that neat? And it's
Yeah,
kind of there's like a lot of contrast here. So I'm just this is the thing is I'm not gonna touch it, right, Jenny? So I'm
yeah,
just gonna let it dry and just see what happens. Because I want these colors to kind of hold the way that they kind of place themselves on the paper.
yeah. The way it looks from here is awesome
It looks
contrast.
very cool. This one's starting to dry over here. And
Yeah,
I'm not gonna touch it. So you can see when you and I just did one color. I did a blue on one edge. I did red on the other. And then I took a teal and I kind of did a teal to kind of fill it in. And
yeah,
that helped blend in the edge color to the middle. And it kind of created a little bit of a swirl down here at the bottom.
yeah. When you first said red, I was kind of like, that might
I
be
know it
too
sounds a
much.
little scary, didn't it?
It did, yeah. But now that I see it, it's not scary at
It's not
all.
too bad.
No.
And I'm just making sure that each of these, my feather shape is there without trying to mess things up too much here. I'm just gonna just make sure the exterior of the feather, everything that I've sketched out, there's at least water there. That's a really important part of this before we let it dry.
So Megan,
Yes, ma'am.
my latest color is much darker than I would have liked. I know the answer is to add water, but is there a way to figure that out beforehand?
Yes, use the corner of your paper towel and you can draw it up, Dory.
Well, no, but I mean, I didn't realize how dark it was going to be till I put it on the paper. Is there a way to test it other than to use another sheet of paper?
I would use another piece of paper, yeah, to test it to your point. Otherwise, I would add more water on in your palette to lighten it for next
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
for sure.
too late, but okay.
No,
Good.
you're good. You're good. I'm open to answering all these questions.
I like that question, Dory. That was good.
Yeah, it was a good question.
Yeah, especially with watercolors
Yeah.
because they're tricky sometimes.
They
Yeah.
are tricky.
You're like, wait, this is kindergarten and I'm kind of messing it up.
Right?
Yeah, we all learn by best by doing, most of us, right? And
Yeah.
experimenting. So, um, the water on water technique is really fun. Again, I'm anything you see you like, do your best to not touch it, ladies. That's the most difficult part.
Mm.
Just leave
Yeah.
it and come back to it.
Yeah.
And it can either going to happen quickly or it's going to go a little more slowly. So it's just about how things happen, while you're in the moment and you're applying the color. So I'm just doing again a wet on wet here.
Man, I'm chatty today. So next question is, I have so much water on it, the paper's starting to kind of wrinkle.
Yes,
Yeah.
that happens almost in all of our classes. So one way to prevent that is to tape the paper down
Okay.
before class. You could also do it now if you could
Mm.
to um, grab some painter's tape or scotch tape just to tape down the four corners.
Okay.
That may help hold it in place. I do my edges.
I gave up trying to fight that, Dory. It always
Me
does it to me.
too. Me too.
Thanks. Ah,
Me too.
Sometimes I found if I put it in a book after,
yeah,
it
yeah.
will
It
flatten it
will
out a little bit.
Exactly. That's a great trick.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a great trick. So I'm going to add a little bit more of this contrasting red here. And I'm going to clean my brush and I'm going to go get a little bit of this bluish purple. My paper's getting a little tippy too. You can kind of hold your finger down to kind of say, "Hey, no, you come back over here, you water." So there's a little of that. So I'm doing three colors. I'm doing one color on the edge, and maybe I'll use this blue. And then I'm doing like a blue kind of color in the middle to kind of help tie it all together.
Hmm.
This one's a little darker, but that's okay. It's all about experimenting. I used a little bit darker of a blue on this side. And my water's pooling a little bit, but I'm just going to do my best here. I can move it around. I can also use the corner of a paper towel to draw it up if I need to. It does look good down here pulled at the bottom though, so I might push the paper down, ladies, to say, hey, come down here. I don't mind if the water pools down here with my heavy pigment. So I'm just gonna shuffle it down here to the bottom and go close. And I'm gonna help it move its way up too. So it's kind of fun how you can play with where the water gathers, but I am getting the pooling for sure. I didn't tape it. So it's just seeing what happens. You can see it's creating some really cool shaded areas. You can see based on the light even. I'm going to grab a couple of like darker colors. I'm going to do a little bit of accents with some darker blues. You can always grab a little bit of black if you want to make a color a little darker. So I want to add a little bit of a navy blue. So I'm just grabbing a little bit of blue and a little bit of black. Oh, this is a greenish black. That's kind of cool. And I'm going to do something a little crazy here. I don't know what's going to happen, so just bear with me. I'm adding just a little contrast to this edging and to the bottom. So just to see what happens. I'm doing like a little bit of a lightish, it's like a greenish black color. And I'm just doing a little bit, just some extra contrast just to see what happens. And look at that, that's really cool. Maybe we try some lines. So it's always about experimentation. You could say, oh, I have some pooling. I'm like, I'm okay with that. I think it's really fun. You can kind of shift the pools of water a little bit if you wanted to. It will dry if I want to shift my paper so they flow down to the bottom. You can see it slowly shifting down. So as an artist, you can really manipulate your artwork in so many different ways. It's actually pretty cool. I like the contrast down here towards the bottom, so I'm just adding in a little bit more. Just a little added contrast. And you can see it's kind of flowing where it wants to, which is kind of neat. And then I have one more feather, so I'm gonna let these dry. They're coming out really cool, really neat. Better than I expected, ladies. Sometimes, you just, when you try new things, you don't know. So I'm gonna let all these dry and I'm going to do water on water for my final feather. I did 5 feathers. Some of you may not have done 5 feathers. So I'm doing water on water again first before I apply the color to ensure my color stays within the lines. But for anyone watching the video, use the comments below. Tell me what colors you're using for your inspiration. I would love to know what colors you're using. But I want to thank you all for being here. I hope you are enjoying yourself. This is a beautiful, really relaxing inspiration. I would do this again in a heartbeat. It's really fun to just take a few minutes to do a simple texture, a simple drawing, and then playing with the blend of colors and to see what happens. Now, at the end of this, we could just leave this the way it is and appreciate your work, or you could do some light watercolor wash around your feathers, which could be a really fun thing too, if you wanted to add something in that white background. So we'll see here at the end of class. And again, this could take you an hour, it could take you 2 hours. We always just take our time. Each art project just takes different amount of times, and sometimes it's just about spending as much time as you have just to take a break. So I applaud you all making time for yourself just to take a little break today. And then I'm going to just come up. And enjoying. And then I'm going to do the same technique. So I'm doing a little red on one side. I'll do the red on this side. On the edges of the leaf. And I'll bring this down so y'all can see it. I'm working on this one here. I'm going to grab a little bit of my bluish teal color. I'm going to do the other side. Going to mix a little bit more of a color.
So on my breaks, I came outside a little bit, and I think what I'm gonna do is after it dries, come back and extend it out a little bit to
Oh, that's
try
a good
and,
idea.
yeah, because they look like pickles with no breaks right now.
That's all
A
right. It
couple of them.
happens.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, how do I fix this? And I'm okay, let it dry and then come back
Exactly.
and play with it a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, you can reshape it, you can reform it. Exactly.
Yeah, because I'm like, where did those breaks go? They're gone. It's
I
just
know. That's funny.
yeah. Well, I think when it was on the first one where I was trying to figure out how much water to use,
Yes.
and it spread outside of the line on me and I didn't realize it.
Yeah, it happens. It happens so fast. Uh,
Yeah.
and I am still kind of perfecting the fact just to go really like slow down a little bit and try to
Mhm.
stay within the lines.
Yeah.
And also like making sure you fill the entire object like inside too, right, Jenny? It's
True.
really it's a huge, it's a learning curve just to try
Yep.
to get it right. I'm gonna make a little bit more of this red. I'm gonna make a little bit of the reddish purple just to add a little bit more contrast to the side here.
Yeah, that's a good point, Megan. I might have been rushing a little bit
I
when
think
I
it's just like it's a part of the process of watercolor. It's just
Yep.
it's a huge learning curve, to be honest.
It's very different than the
It's
acrylics,
very
so
different. You have to just like, I don't know, I don't even know what the right word is. Be very present about where you're painting. With acrylic,
mm,
sometimes you can just be like, wee, you know?
yeah, and then I don't like that. I go over it and it's
Yeah,
gone.
I
Yeah.
know.
I
So
think
funny.
that's why watercolor sometimes intimidates me because
Yeah,
it's different about trying to fix things that I don't like.
agreed. Agreed. I'm gonna tuck in a little purple here just because I can. Ooh, that's pretty. I'm just testing a little purple between the blues, and that's really pretty.
Oh, yeah.
And I want you to look at your paintings and say, do I have enough color? Do I want to make it darker anywhere? So so there's a lot of red on the edge, which is fine. I can always take a little purple and like soften it too, which is really fun. Or I could add a little bit of that reddish purple area somewhere else. Maybe I add a little purple down here to the bottom of the blue just so it matches. That could be really fun. So anything really goes, as you all can see. I could even add a little bit more blue to that red space to kind of tame it down a little bit for it to match a little bit more. So it's really fun to kind of feather in secondary and third colors into your painting just to let it dry and see what happens. So I'm going to let that dry. There's a lot of funky colors happening here. And there's some pooling on the edges, which is kind of interesting. So I'm going to let that dry. And then you can kind of look around and see, what else you might want to add and where. I'm going to hold this to see if I can pool some more of these colors down to the bottom. Ooh, that's fun. And then if I needed to use, again, the corner of the paper towel to blot a little of this color, I might do that just so it matches a little bit. So I'm just going to use the corner of the paper towel just to suck up some of that. And that helped a lot. Just a little bit of the paint pigment. You can really manage, how things pool, how dark or how light with a little bit of that paper towel. So that red came out really, that reddish purple came out really pretty on that edge right there.
I
And you
like
can see
that.
how these are drying down here. Really quite pretty. Now there's some other really fun details you can consider for today's class. If you wanted to bring in, maybe once some of these dried, so maybe I'll find a feather that's dry like this one. I can paint the center of the quill, maybe a light blue. So I can do a single line, again, once it's dry, down the center of the quill. And I'm going to make sure it's wet enough. A single line. And I'm going to do a nice light blue color. Just to give it a little color. This is kind of a lightish bluish green, but it's all right. Just makes it, a little less white. And then if you wanted to add some of these little feathery spritzy things down here, you can do some long kind of skinny lines for a little bit of spritz. So I'm just going to touch in a little bit of color for a little bit of these little feathery spritzy things down here. So I'm going to make sure that if you have a little bleeding, I guess that's okay, but try to have that feather dry if you can. But I'm just going to do a little bit of a light color. And then I'm just going to use the tip of a brush and just do a couple of these little feathery spritz down here. Could make those a little darker just to see what happens. That's kind of fun. I love experimenting. I don't mind experimenting for the group here. This is also a great inspiration to do any ink outlining, ladies or gents. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a light color on the quill. And if you even want to like just do water, and even if it fills in a little bit, that's totally fine too. So this one down here, it was wet and I was just experimenting. Just get some water and just drag your brush down the middle and maybe the water will flow right down. That works great too. So here it was a little heavy, so I can kind of just use the paper towel to kind of go right against the line just to pick up some of it, and that worked great. But this is a great inspiration for ink outlining. You could even just use the tip of your brush for a little bit of those little sassy little sprays. There we go. Now you may really enjoy what you have. You still may be playing with your other colors. I'm gonna do something a little funky and different since we're all being really playful today. I'm going to do a little bit of wet on wet. I'm gonna do some really fun light splotches around because I don't mind experimenting. If anybody's scared to do this, you can see if you like what I do or not, but I'm just gonna do some kind of fun splotches around my feathers. I'm gonna leave white space in between, but I'm just gonna add some fun colors. And I'm just gonna go for it because I'm just like, I'm not afraid. I'm just gonna add some kind of fun colors. Again, I'm doing water on water first. And you could start with light colors, but I'm just doing some kind of fun, and I'm going around my feathers. So there's white around the feathers. So anything I do here, it will not have an impact. So I'm just dumping in some just colors and then maybe a little bit of the red into the purple. And this is really fun and simple. It just adds, it brings a little bit of life to some of the white space. And when it dries, it's just going to look like a pretty little background, like a blended background. So it's actually there's not a ton of risk. I would just do a nice and light color. So I'm just doing purples and pinks. I'll probably bring in some blues. See how it goes here. But I need to make some more purples and pinks. I ran out. So I'll add a little extra contrast here just to see how this looks. Fun and pretty. Okay. So it's just kind of a fun touch for consideration. So while it's wet, you can drop in other colors too. So this is again totally optional. I'm just having fun. I'm kind of being footloose and fancy free. But this is like, I don't know about you all, but this is so calming. This is such a great inspiration. We should definitely do something like this again. What do y'all think?
Yeah,
It's really nice, isn't it? I
it
can't wait to
is.
see what everybody's comes out to be like. All right, I'm going to tuck in. I might tuck in some blues and greens down in this corner. I'm not sure yet. I'm just kind of putting some color, some water on first. I ran out of my pinks and purples, so I need to make a little bit more paint over here on my palette. I'm gonna grab some purples. I'll grab some reds. That's a nice purple color. Grab a little bit more red. And I'm just gonna add in a little bit of these colors here and there. They're just gonna bleed around. You can always add more water if you want it to like bleed around a little bit more or a little differently. I like it when things match. So I'm just going to put in, I'm also going to get a little crazy and just put a little bit of blue in here and there because there is blue kind of tucked in. So I'm just going to use my brush and move that around a little bit. Just to see what a little bit of blue looks like. A little bit of blue. But this is yours. So in these classes, you always pick you can choose your favorite colors, right? You can use the colors that you're inspired to use. And again, I'm showing you what it's like to add in, a little bit of, a little bit of color around your feathers. If you don't want to do this, you don't have to. I thought it was really fun, but it's your choice. So I love being the guinea pig in these classes and just giving you different ideas, but you are the artist. You get to make your choices on what you want to do and where. So you do you. Always follow your own gut on your own artwork. You don't always have to do what the instructor does or your neighbor. So if you're ever taking, live classes, I have some really fun pooling over here. That's going to dry really neatly, not really nicely. But I'm going around my feathers and play with like adding different colors in. So I have a little bit of red, I have a little bit of blue. I'm letting my colors breathe, and I'm just going to sit back. If you have any pooling, you can move some of your paints around. But I'm going to zoom this up high so everybody can see it. How fun. Now you can see my pencil, and that gives it a little bit, the edge is a little substance, right? So you could imagine adding ink outlines to these feathers potentially to add in additional detail or to highlight certain areas. It's kind of fun to think about that. And I have a little pooling here. You can always use your finger and just move it around with your finger, maybe up and down. That looks great. It's going to dry with a little bit of a darker edge, just like it is over there. See this dark pooling on the edge? It's going to dry a little darker there, which is kind of fun. Imagine like an old map, right? With the darker edges. It's kind of fun. Up here, it's a little darker. You can use your finger. You can, if anybody wants to do any splattering, that could be another fun addition to this. Some of you might be like, Megan, you're a bit crazy here. You got a little of this and a little bit of that. But it's always fun if you like what you have to, quote unquote, not ruin what you have. That's fine. I appreciate that. I certainly do. But I'm going to mix a little bit of a blue and purple. And I'm going to do a little controlled splattering. So in between on the background only. Oh, that's fun. And it's really light. It has a lot of water in it. It's actually a fun secondary. So I'm just using my forefinger to pull back and flick on the background. It's fairly watery, so it's not a thick splatter or a dark splatter. It's like a light, subtle splatter. If I had more ink, which I can demonstrate, it'll be a thicker splatter. So I want to do, I think I'll do purple and blue. I'll do a little heavier pigment. God help me. To show you. Let me find a color I absolutely love. Okay, this is a nice color. It's like a bluish purple. So I'm going to do a little bit of this. It's kind of fun. But again, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. I'm just demonstrating just different fun techniques that you can do to add personality. And I'll hold this up. You can barely see the splatter, but I'll hold it up for you. Oh, you can barely see it.
Yeah.
It's very subtle, but it's kind of fun. I guess it's better to be subtle because then if you didn't like it, it would just blend in, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I did it around my feathers, basically. It just looks like little tiny, tiny blue flicks on top of that's blending with the reds and the pinks around, the purples around. So with watercolors, you typically have to be really patient. You let one area dry and you come back to it. And it's a really fun part of the process. So if I ever did want to apply ink to this, I could easily let it dry and grab an ink pen or a micron pen. I'll drop a link down in the YouTube description to micron pens that are a great accent to different art projects. They dry, they have what's the ink called? It's on the tip of my tongue. It's not, it's called something ink. I'll think of it in a second, but it basically allows it from like not ever fading. It's used for like museums. Somebody probably knows the word.
It
Yeah.
looks like
What does it say on it, Jenny?
it says Micron
It has it on it.
archival ink.
Yes, archival. Thank you. Archival. It prevents it
Okay.
from fading. So people can use those, Jenny, for like art projects. You could use it for signing your name, Jenny. So in 100 years and somebody finds your artwork, they'll know it's you because your name is still there.
Wonderful. It'll be
Archival ink.
worth
Thank you.
millions.
It started with an A.
Be worth millions by then, right?
It'll be worth millions. Yes. Agreed. Agreed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video. For anyone that's watching the live, I want to thank you so much for being here. I look forward to hearing how the experience went for you in the comments below. And I do hope to see you again at a future tutorial. So thank you.